The NBA Finals are just one day away, and I have a former NBA Finals MVP for the Golden State Warriors joining me next. Hall of Famer Rick Barry. Just to let folks know, I recorded that segment before I'm talking now. We had to record that with Zoom, so you're going to see a slight shift in the video quality and aesthetics. And then after that interview, it'll jump right back to this format again. He spent about 15 minutes with me. And Dub Nation, it's always a pleasure to have one of the greatest Golden State Warriors and one of the greatest NBA players in the history of the game join us for Locked On Warriors. And that's next. I'm Cyrus Saatsaz. You can follow me at Dog Surf Roadshow. You can follow this program on Locked On at Locked On Dubs. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Hall of Famer Rick Barry on all social media platforms at Rick24Barry. Rick, how are you doing, sir? We're recording this on Zoom, not the platform we usually do it with, but it's always a pleasure to see you. How are you doing? And what are your first thoughts on the Warriors-Celtics NBA Finals series?
Well, I think it's a surprise. I don't think anybody would have picked these two teams to be in the finals at the beginning of the season. So that's the beauty of sports, is that you really can't predict it. If I could do that, hell, I'd just retire and just bet on basketball games, which I wouldn't put a plug nickel on a basketball game betting. And you could just, see why that's the case. I mean, I think it's other sports, maybe not so much as in basketball, but basketball, one player gets hot and do something can change the whole dang game. I mean, there's very few sports you can do that are team sports where one person's going to make a difference. A quarterback can't do it by himself. Somebody's got to block for him. Somebody's got to catch the damn ball. Somebody's got to run. I mean, the defense has got to do a good job. I mean, you can just go on and on and on about every sport and why it takes everybody else to contribute. And so that's the thing about basketball. It's really nuts. I mean, one guy getting super hot really and truly can help win a basketball game.
It's incredible. If you were, let's say we put your, because look, I mean, you're one of the brightest minds, obviously, when it comes to basketball, especially professional basketball. You're a former Finals MVP among many accolades. And what I really love, Rick, is every time the NBA Finals comes around, you and I will start text messaging because you've been so wildly successful in the NBA Finals that when the finals are on, all these records are being set, all these marks are being achieved, and then your name shows up there as individuals have done it better than anyone else. It's almost like a Rick Barry highlight show when the NBA Finals comes around. Let's say you're the head coach of the Warriors. Let's swap you and Steve Kerr for a second here. How are the Warriors have been implementing a zone defense and variances of it? I mean, we're seeing box and 1, we're seeing 2-1-2, we're seeing 3-2, we're seeing 2-3. And it's been, for the most part, wildly successful. If you're the coach of the Golden State Warriors, how do you strategize defensively for the Boston Celtics offense?
Well, I think you have to look at the videos and determine where their weakness may be and what you might be able to try initially to make it more difficult for them. Because let's face it, as I just said earlier, if a guy is hot, I don't care what the hell you do to him, unless you go ahead and just tie him up or beat him up or something, he's going to score. Okay. I mean, that's going to happen regardless. So what can we do to make it as difficult as possible for this team to be successful offensively? And then you implement that, but you have a number of different strategies, and you determine, hey, is it going to be should we go to a 2-1-2? Should we do a 1-3? Should we box him 1 and get on Tatum, or should we do that on Brown? You have to decide how you're going to do it and then be prepared to make changes. But I like that, because what it forces the other team to do is adjust to what you're doing, because if it's working, you keep it. If it's not working, you put the next one in. And so you force the other team to continually have to make adjustments to what you're doing. And it becomes sort of like a chess match.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's going to be an interesting chess match between these two head coaches. Klay Thompson, he's always been a streaky shooter his entire career. This really isn't anything new. It's maybe a little more extreme than it's been in years past before the serious injuries. But defensively, it's been noted, it's been talked about. He's not quite the same defensive player that he was in terms of his foot speed, especially his lateral movement. What do you do with Klay Thompson defensively in this series? The Celtics don't have quite the speed that the Warriors have been dealing with in series past, and I feel like Klay could be a more effective defender. I know you emphasize team defense a lot, but occasionally you do have these one-on-one situations, and and sometimes you get switched. Let's say Klay will get switched on Tatum or switched on Jaylen Brown, or maybe that's his assignment. How would you use Klay defensively? Do you like him switching to whoever is going on? Do you want him maybe trying to stick to a specific man and ignore the switches? What are your thoughts on Klay's D?
Well, I think it all comes down to, again, it is what I emphasize all the time. It's team defense. It's not individual defense. Nobody should be able to be responsible for one guy all the time. And you have help. That's what the team is all about. No one should be able to take a guy one-on-one from the perimeter and get to the basket without somebody from your team helping to prevent that from happening and make him pass the ball to somebody else to score in a different way. And if a guy's able to do that, then the team sucks defensively, team-wise. I mean, it should not happen. It really should not happen. And so, and then again, individually, you have to know the player that you're going to be asked to guard, as from an individual standpoint. What is his weakness? What does he not do as well as other things? And you make him have to do the things that he doesn't do as well and beat you with his weakness. And that's why you want to try to be a well-rounded player in this game. You want to be able to shoot the ball from outside. And now's the game. You got to be able to hit the three at reasonable consistency. Then you got to be able to drive right and drive left. And if you can do that, you own the defense. I mean, there's no way he can't force you to do anything because he has to play you honest. And if he tries to make you do something else, you're going to really take advantage of it because you can do whatever is necessary to be able to have an opportunity or a better opportunity to score. So that's the critical element. And most players do have weaknesses. And that's what you want to try to avoid. You want to try to be a well-rounded player. That forces the defense to play you honest. And then if you know what you're doing, you can get him. All you have to do, Cyrus, all you have to do in basketball is get my defender, okay, when I'm playing. If I can get him to just slightly move his body weight one way, just the slightest move at all, I own him. Because he has to stop that motion before he can respond, right? Again, the opposite way. By that time, I have a half a step on him and he's done.
What makes the Boston Celtics so special in your eyes? Like, what about them is making Dub Nation so nervous, and maybe rightfully so?
They don't quit. They don't quit, but they also are very erratic at times. I mean, just the same thing. I mean, they looked like they had the game won. They're going on to the finals, and all of a sudden it's a 2-point game, and they're lucky that the Jimmy Buckets doesn't knock in the 3-point shot. And so but the thing is, they don't have the experience. Got a lot of young guys doing stuff to close out and to bury somebody. When you have somebody, you have to crush them. You have to bury them. You can't give them hope. And to the Celtics' credit, they don't quit and they keep trying and they will respond. And so it's a good team in that regard. They really do not quit. Now, everybody's talking about, the best defensive team, in the league. They played against a team that is not as good offensively as the Golden State Warriors. That's the Miami Heat. And they had to go 7 games and were fortunate to come out in a victory. So how can anybody in their right mind, if you understand that and saw what happened in that series, think that they should be able to beat the Golden State Warriors? The only way they're going to beat the Golden State Warriors is if the Golden State Warriors does what I say they always do, which is to hurt themselves. If they don't focus on defense and play the kind of defense they're capable of playing, right? Okay. So, and if they can't, then, if they don't do that, I'm sorry, I had a call come in and disrupted me. If they play that kind of defense consistently, Boston is going to be able to take advantage of them. And conversely, they have to continue to play their brand of offensive basketball to make it more difficult for the really outstanding defensive team of the Boston Celtics to make them make even more decisions and take advantage of the mistakes that they make, because they are going up against the best defensive team in the league. And so their offense has to be executing at high efficiency in order to be able to score and take advantage of the skill that they have as a team. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Absolutely. One of our longtime sponsors of Locked On Warriors is PrizePicks. And I decided to finally create an account and have some fun with this. And it is a lot of fun. People are seeing my screen right now. Unfortunately, I forgot to hide the dollar amounts I have in there, but who cares? It's not a big deal. So the premise of PrizePicks is this: you pick a minimum of 2 over and unders on individual achievements in the game. So for example, Stephen Curry, 26.5 points in game 1. Would you bet that Stephen Curry is going to go over that amount or under that amount? Do you have a feeling either way, Rick? And there's also other numbers here if you can look at them. But what are your thoughts on Steph scoring above 26 or
Over.
Klay Thompson scoring over 20.5, meaning 21 or more? Do any of these look good to you for Dub Nation or anyone else viewing to make some money?
Over both of them. I mean, both of those guys are capable of getting big numbers. 26 for Steph is no big deal. I mean, even though he didn't do much in the last game when he started off. I mean, at one point it was hard to believe that he only had 3 points or something. But with both of those guys, you got to go over. Here's the thing about Klay. Klay is and has been, like you say, a little bit of a roller coaster ride, up and down, doing things. But the thing is, when he's up, it's ridiculous because he still shoots such a high percentage. So he has a bad game. But the next game, he's liable to go ahead and have just an outstanding game like he had in game number 5. I mean, he struggled during that series. But when a closeout game came along, he responded. I mean, so that's the thing about both of those guys. If they get it going, there isn't any one player or any team that's going to stop them from scoring. I mean, it's an impossibility.
And there's a lot of different fun things to bet on, like Stephen Curry's going to score more or less than 3 3-pointers. Same with Klay and Jason Tatum. One stat that actually looks good to me for a high probability are turnovers. The Celtics are known for causing that. The Warriors, that's been their one thorn in their side, especially. I'm guessing it keeps Steve Kerr up at night. Are the turnover numbers? I do think if you're going to bet on anything, Draymond Green going over 3 turnovers might be a safe bet. How do you keep that down? Like, why do you think the Warriors turn the ball over so much against certain opponents? And what would you instill in them to reduce that number?
Well, my whole thing is that don't try to make the spectacular pass. And the big thing is that, but this has to happen instantaneously. It's not like you have a lot of time to think about in a basketball game. It just has to. That's why you have to be a player that, man, you can like that. If I throw this ball to my teammate, what is he going to be able to do with it? Don't make a pass that isn't productive.
Absolutely. And I know we only have a few minutes with you here before you got to go. And by the way, PrizePicks, again, longtime sponsor of this program. For a limited time, PrizePicks is an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for all our users. Users get $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores just a single point, but you must use the promo code NBA for $50 free if your first PrizePicks entry scores just a single point. Rick, you've been to 2 NBA finals, and again, you posted incredible numbers in those 2 series. You won the NBA Finals MVP in 1975. The Warriors have a lot of first-time NBA Finals players, among them Jordan Poole, Otto Porter Jr., Andrew Wiggins. What advice would you give them, if any, in terms of their approach to their first NBA Finals game?
Don't get too emotionally wound up about it and get so psyched up that you drain energy. Just let the game come to you and just look at it. This is another game. Yes, you're playing for the championship, but it's still the game of basketball. Play your game. Don't let the enormity of the situation have an impact on your performance. Easier said than done.
And again, folks, you're going to be seeing Rick Barry's name pop up a lot during these NBA Finals, given how dominant he was in his 2 NBA Finals appearances. Rick, it's always such a pleasure, sir. I know the clock ran out here. You got to do other things. Again, you can follow Rick Barry on all social media platforms or Rick24Barry. Rick, real quick, mention your sponsors as well. Give them some love before you hang up on me.
Yeah, medicilleaf.com, medicilleaf.com. 24 is the code, and then go to Go Sleeves, SLEEVES.com. The promotion code is RB24, and unbelievable products. God bless. Go Warriors. Always good to talk to you, Cyrus. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. That is Hall of Famer Rick Barry joining me here on Locked On Warriors. I'm now back on my regular streaming broadcasting platform. Special thanks again to Rick Barry for coming on. That was such a pleasure. I have to give some love to longtime sponsor of Locked On Warriors and the Locked On Podcast Network, Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain parts auto store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning like, is your Odyssey an LX or an EX, and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry. Not to mention, you could stay at home and not be infected by someone like me who might be walking around infected with a nasty thing that just won't go away. You have computers. You could stay at home and order those parts with access to rockauto.com at home or in your pocket on your mobile device. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? An example being a Honda Odyssey fuel pump is $353 from a chain store, just $216 from Rock Auto. They're a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Their prices are reliably low for every customer. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck right locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. Make sure to go check out the Locked On NBA Big Board. Host Rafael Barlow from NBA Draft Junkies and author of the NBA Big Board newsletter is joined by Richard Stamen, Sam Ferris, and Leif Thulin, giving fans an in-depth look into the NBA draft, mock draft, player rankings, and of course, the big boards. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. Many thanks again to Rick Barry for coming on. I just want to throw out a few extra stats. Tomorrow morning, Connor Letourneau is going to come on the program, and that'll be our final in-depth preview of this series. Again, Connor is as insider as it gets. He covers the team for the San Francisco Chronicle. We're going to do one final breakdown of the series between game one, which takes place tomorrow, June 2nd, and it should be exciting. The Warriors are favored by 3.5. That line has stayed steady. Some injury news for you, because in my opinion, there are three particular players that are injured who might play and who could be huge factors in this series. Chief among them, Andre Iguodala. He was a full participant in yesterday's practice. That's a huge positive sign in terms of whether or not we are going to see him play. Otto Porter Jr. is also trending toward playing in Thursday's game one of the NBA Finals. I would count on certainly Otto Porter Jr. playing. I would say Andre Iguodala most likely. Gary Payton II is a little more iffy. He was at the podium yesterday briefly talking about his injury, and he said there are still numerous boxes that the team needs to check off before he could play. And kudos to him for being incredibly astute in knowing what to say, what not to say, because he certainly did not let anything on in that interview. In fact, I want to actually play that soundbite for you here. From yesterday's press conference. So let me just get that set up here. This is Gary Payton II at the podium yesterday. Again, being incredibly media savvy in his answer to whether or not he's going to be available for Thursday's game.
And how are you feeling, and what's just your level of optimism of whether or not you'll make a return this series?
Still got a lot of boxes to check off, but working every day, just get back out there and help my team. So hopefully, that time comes soon.
What boxes you guys check?
We just got a few boxes. I'm not gonna speak on them, but we're not there yet, but we're almost. I feel like hopefully.
Are you, from a jump shooting perspective, are you pretty unrestricted? I know you're starting to shoot again, but do you feel unrestricted shooting?
Like I said, we still got some boxes to check. It's gonna go by day, and see what happens. Hope the best.
How do you feel? Like, how does the arm feel when you are out there pushing?
Starting to feel normal, but still not me yet.
How are you?
And that's and that's Gary Payton II again at yesterday's press conference talking about his elbow. So again, there's room for optimism, but there's still a ways to go there. I also want to play this soundbite, by the way, real quick. This was Draymond Green yesterday on the Colin Cowherd podcast. And this started a little kerfunkle. Nothing new between Draymond Green and Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant decided to make his semi-annual Twitter appearance where he decides to engage with a lot of people's for better or worse. I personally don't understand why he does this. I don't know if he gets his rocks off simply engaging with people. But it all started because Draymond Green was on Colin Cowherd's podcast, and he was talking about, and the conversation was surrounding Stephen Curry and the fact that he hasn't won any Finals MVP awards. And Draymond brought up the fact that Stephen Curry was average by his standards, double teamed 7 times more than Kevin Durant. Here, take a listen to the whole clip.
If Steph Curry comes down and he calls for a pick and roll every play, nobody's going to say a word, including Kevin Durant, by the way. Nobody's going to say anything. That's not who he is. That's not what he does. And so when you watch a game and Kevin Durant was absolutely incredible in those finals runs. As you know, you watched it. We all watched it. Kevin Durant was absolutely insane. Steph Curry got double teamed probably 7 times the amount that KD did in a given series. So when you watch those games and you say, his numbers could be a little down, he's facing a double team. And by the way, this isn't a double team from the Orlando Magic. This is a double team from a team that's playing in the finals, which we know if you're in the finals, you're going to have a good defense. These are real double teams. This ain't some team that's throwing together a game plan the night before and then rolling their players out there that can't play half dead. This isn't that.
Right.
This is elite teams throwing elite defenders at guys. And yet the guy still averages, I'm not sure what his finals average is, but I'd be willing to bet my bottom dollar is north of 23 points.
Yeah.
And so the games and the impact that he has on the game, if you don't understand basketball and thoroughly understand, not understand a stat sheet, if you don't understand basketball, which most people don't in your space, then you're going to come out and you're going to say, he needs to validate that by Finals MVP because that's all you can see. You then go and you say, oh, man, this guy won Finals MVP. That must be the guy who's doing X, Y, and Z. But if you can analyze the game and see, that's when I say new media. That's where I feel like this space is going awry. No one analyzes the game anymore. That's a lost skill. No one does that. And if you have the potential or if you're capable of analyzing a game, then under no circumstances are you going to say Steph Curry need a Finals MVP to validate who he is.
That was, again, that's a very interesting clip, and I loved it. I think Draymond Green is absolutely correct. Well, Kevin Durant did not love it. Kevin Durant decided to respond to that clip specifically by saying that, quote, from my view of it, this is 100% false, unquote. And Kevin Durant was not done there. Kevin Durant decided to come directly after me, among many people. Oops, sorry. There we go. Sorry, got to stop that. And so, and again, Durant likes to do this sometime. And for some reason, he replied to me twice. I asked him simply, I'm like, and I told him, and I've expressed this on the show as well, that if Kevin Durant just answers the why of him leaving, that's all I want to know. You know, this is my opinion, but I do feel it's owed to a region, to a fan base, to an organization that for 3 years did nothing but show him love. He was warmly embraced here. The only issues he had was in his own head. And for him to just skip out after 3 years, and my impression is that he came here, used this organization to bolster his legacy by adding rings that he otherwise would not have won. And I just want a simple answer of why did you bail on this region, this organization, this fan base after 3 years without having the decency to explain why? Just my opinion, but I do have a right to express it in the same way that he has a right to not answer it. Well, I wrote that on Twitter. He responded to that. His response was, quote, "You so entitled, LOL. I don't have to tell you anything. I've never met you a day in my life," unquote. That's true. That is true. But in the same regard, then I have every right to continue criticizing him for leaving this region, leaving this organization, leaving fans hanging, including thousands of children who loved him. That's my right too. So that's what happened yesterday. A nice little distraction from the NBA Finals. Connor Letourneau will join this program tomorrow. We're going to do one final breakdown. I love Connor. I consider him a close friend of mine. It's always a joy when he comes. I love every guest of this show pretty much. But Connor and I have a special connection, man, and he's going to come on tomorrow. And I say the same thing for Rick Barry, who is just a truly wonderful human being. So much of the perception about him is utterly false. And he's been nothing but genuine. He's been nothing but kind. He's been nothing but thoughtful with me. I've known him for over 20 years. One of my first full-time jobs in the media industry was being his executive producer. And 20 some odd years ago, he was the same guy he is now. Just, he's very direct. I respect it. But some people just don't like, honesty. And that's just who he is. That's why a huge reason on the Rick Barry show that I host with him, and we just did a new episode there. He loves playing that sound clip from Jack Nicholson. "You can't handle the truth." Because a lot of people just can't, unfortunately. Anyway, so tomorrow we'll do one final breakdown, and then game one of the NBA Finals is here. Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On NBA. From the first jump ball of the play-in tournament to the last possession of the finals, Locked On experts take you deep inside the playoffs with insight and analysis affecting all 30 teams. One last thing, by the way, we're going to start doing a mailbag segment here, not in the traditional sense, though. That our Apple Podcasts reviews, ratings, whatever you want to call that. When I took over this program, it was not great to begin with. Nothing's changed. And I'd like to bolster that number a little bit if that's possible. I mean, look, if you folks don't like this show, you don't like this show. There isn't much I can do. I'm doing my best here. But if you leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, I will read your question. I will read your comment, no matter what it is, as long as it's within reason and it's appropriate, of course. But 5-star reviews, that's the mailbag. If you want anything addressed on this, I will read it. Just leave that 5-star review on Apple Podcast, please. And that's how we'll handle the mailbag segment. So hope to read your comments and questions there. And otherwise, we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you so much, Dub Nation. Thank you so much, even members of non-Dub Nation, for just chiming in and listening to the program. It's always a joy for me to do this. And we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you.